The perfect family is a beautiful facade, and every facade has its cracks. In the affluent, tree-lined suburb of Oak Creek, Colorado, the Wagner family embodied an American ideal. Their home was a sprawling colonial with a manicured lawn, a symbol of success and stability. David Wagner, 58, was a respected financial advisor, a man known for his firm handshake and steady demeanor. His wife, Helen, 55, was the heart of the home, a beloved kindergarten teacher whose warmth was felt by every child and parent she met. They had built this life from the ground up, and their pride and joy was their only son, Liam. To the outside world, Liam was the golden boy, handsome, a former high school football star, and a pre-law student at a prestigious university. But behind the closed doors of the Wagner home, a different, darker story was unfolding. The tension was a slow, insidious poison. Liam's college career, once so promising, was unraveling. His grades were plummeting, and whispers of a burgeoning gambling problem had begun to circulate. The pressure from his father was immense. David Wagner had a very specific vision for his son's future. A future in law, a partnership at a firm, a continuation of the Wagner name's sterling reputation. Every conversation became a negotiation. Every family dinner a tense standoff. David saw Liam's failures not as stumbles, but as a personal insult, a betrayal of the family's honor. Helen, caught in the middle, played the peacemaker, her soothing words a fragile dam holding back a rising tide of resentment. The air in the beautiful house grew thick with unspoken disappointments and simmering anger. It was a cold Tuesday in November, the kind of evening where the frost settles early and the world goes quiet. An argument had erupted hours before, its echoes still clinging to the walls. The trigger was a phone call from the university. Liam was on academic probation. For David, this was the final, unacceptable stain on the family name. The confrontation was brutal, stripping away all pretense of civility. David's words were no longer about disappointment, but about legacy, about honor, about the shame Liam was bringing upon them. He threatened to cut off all financial support, to disown him, to erase him from the family narrative if he didn't immediately get his act together. Liam, cornered and humiliated, felt the foundations of his world crumbling. The love and approval he had spent his life seeking were being publicly revoked. In that moment, the image of the golden boy shattered, and something much darker took its place. Later that night, the house was deceptively still. Helen had gone to bed with a migraine, the stress of the day having taken its physical toll. David sat in his leather armchair in the study, a glass of bourbon in his hand, staring into the dying embers of the fire. He believed the storm had passed, that his ultimatum would force his son onto the right path. He was wrong. Liam moved through the shadowy house with a chilling purpose. The precise sequence of events would never be fully known, but the evidence would paint a horrifying picture. Sometime after midnight, he entered the study. What began as a final, desperate confrontation escalated into an uncontrollable rage. He seized a heavy crystal award from his father's desk, a trophy for business excellence. The first blow was likely not meant to kill, but to silence. The ones that followed were something else entirely, a brutal, frenzied erasure of the source of all his pain. When the rage subsided, Liam was left in the silent study, standing over his father's lifeless body. The reality of his actions must have crashed down upon him with paralyzing force, but instead of fleeing, his mind, twisted by panic and a warped sense of preservation, began to construct a new narrative. He cleaned himself up, he disposed of the weapon, and then he made a decision so cold it would later stun seasoned detectives. He knew his mother had heard nothing, her sleep aided by a strong sedative for her migraine. He knew she was the only other witness to the evening's argument. In the deepest, most calculating part of his brain, he concluded that her existence was a threat to the story he would tell. Sometime in the early hours of the morning, he went upstairs and smothered Helen Wagner as she slept, extinguishing the one person who had always offered him unconditional love. The following morning, it was Liam who made the frantic 911 call. His performance was Oscar-worthy, his voice cracking with a believable, gut-wrenchable hysteria. He told the operator he had come downstairs for water and found his father, then, upon checking on his mother, discovered her as well. When police arrived, they found a scene of profound tragedy. David Wagner was in his study, the signs of a violent struggle carefully staged by his son. Helen Wagner lay peacefully in her bed, as if she had simply never woken up. Liam, the sole survivor, was the picture of devastated shock. Initially, the investigation seemed to support Liam's story. There was evidence of a forced entry at the back door, a pane of glass neatly broken from the outside. A few valuables were reported missing, steering detectives toward a theory of a botched burglary. Liam was cooperative, providing a detailed account of the previous day's events, carefully omitting the vicious argument and painting a portrait of a happy, normal family. He was the grieving son, and the community rallied around him. But for Detective Eva Rostova, a veteran with a sharp eye for the dissonant details, something felt off. The forced entry was a little too convenient. The point of entry didn't align with the home's layout. The stolen items were insignificant, not the high-value electronics in plain sight, and the violence in the study seemed excessively personal for a burglar surprised and eager to flee. The forensics team became the architects of the truth. There was no foreign DNA under Helen's fingernails, no signs of a real struggle in her room. The blood spatter analysis in the study told a story of an attack that originated from someone David was facing, someone he knew, not from a stranger lurking in the shadows. The final damning piece of evidence came from the family's home security system. While it didn't record video inside, it meticulously logged every time a door was opened and closed. The log showed the back door being opened from the inside at 3:14 a.m. and closed again moments later, long after the murders had occurred and long before Liam claimed to have discovered the bodies. He had gone outside to stage the broken glass, unknowingly creating a digital timestamp of his own guilt. Confronted with the irrefutable evidence, Liam's carefully constructed facade crumbled. The grief-stricken son vanished, replaced by a hollow, defeated young man. He confessed to everything, describing the argument, the explosive rage, and the chillingly pragmatic decision to kill his mother to seal his secret. He spoke not of hatred, but of a desperate, twisted need to reclaim his father's respect, to protect the family honor from the shame of his own failures. In his mind, he had not destroyed his family. He had preserved its legacy. The community of Oak Creek was left to grapple with a horror that could not be easily explained. It wasn't a random act of violence from a stranger, but a calculated destruction from within, a tragedy born from the very pressure to be perfect. The Wagner house still stands on its quiet street, a beautiful shell holding the echo of a terrible truth, that the desire for honor can sometimes demand the most dishonorable price.